Where's the best place to keep all your dad jokes?
Oh, I've heard this one before. Just tell me.
In a database. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Brand Coverage Week 1 in-person edition. I'm Brandon Carney alongside Pat Gustafson. Pat, how's the beanbag treating you?
I'm gonna have severe swamp ass, and this also I might just have to stay here all the time
That's fine.
because I'm like buried in this thing. But it is with sad news that I have to announce that I am in fact wearing pants, but the dogs are out. So if anyone's interested in that, we can work out kind of an arrangement on that.
Yeah, the dogs are barking. I told Pat before the show, I don't monetize this show for like ad revenue anyway. The show runs off of you guys' donations, which is, we appreciate very much. But yeah, we don't really have to worry about getting like canceled due to content or even copyright. I could use fucking AC/DC music to intro the show if I really wanted to.
Dark-sided. Wait, why don't we use Dark-sided?
It doesn't feel like podcast music. I don't think you want to make podcast music, but who knows? Maybe you do. Folks, anyway, welcome back to the show. We obviously have a loaded show to bring to you guys today. Hopefully you like the setup. And again, I guess if for those of you listening strictly on the audio version, you may not even know what the fuck we're talking about. Pat and I are in person, which we will be going forward, as will the show be at 10 a.m. Eastern time going forward. We mentioned it before, but this is the official start of that. And if you are watching with us on YouTube Live or after the fact, we are in some nice big comfy beanbags in the Brand studio here.
And I brought shirts for us to wear.
Pat, I don't need...
This one's for me.
Yeah. Pat has graciously...
Darren Waller is for you.
Pat has graciously brought Raiders jerseys for us.
No reason in particular. I just felt like, it might be a good look,
Right. That game didn't make me happy. We'll just put it that way. It was a beautiful week, though, guys. We had primetime bangers all over the place. Chiefs losing week 1 to the Chargers. I mean, you could not start an NFL season off better for me personally than that, especially right after the Cowboys lose as well. But the Chiefs looking vulnerable to not only just any team, but to the Chargers, who I have been for years trying to push the Charger agenda. The year I feel like I finally kind of gave up on it.
Give up on it. You didn't? Did you?
I did essentially. No, I did not have them as a playoff team, so I did essentially give up on it. I mean, I'm still a fan, but whatever. And Christian McCaffrey went from dead to alive again, and he is officially alive as of now.
Very much alive.
And it's tootin' season, baby. Those are kind of the headlines right now. But Pat, we'll start here. How did your teams do this week? How did overall fantasy landscape? How are we feeling?
Well, the fantasy landscape for me was 3-6. However, it was in the 3 most important ones that I won. So I guess I'm pretty chill. I didn't get quite guillotined because someone in our league dropped a cool 48, I think. And I granted 19-team league, very difficult, but 48 is
rough.
Yeah, but no, we're happy. Not happy about George Kittle. We'll talk about him. How did you do?
It was bad. I'm not gonna lie. It was bad pretty much everywhere. Yeah, I'm in in our league. In our league, I took the L strictly off of Derek. I took the L off of Derrick Henry's fumble, which was funny because at the time when that fumble happened, I was losing even before the fumble. I thought I was, at least. And then I think he got like some points back after the fact that retroactively made it to where if he had just held onto the ball, gained 0 yards, I would have won the matchup, assuming I'm facing Lamar and Zay Flowers, assuming they didn't do anything after the fact either. But I was winning. Henry fumble. It's hard to blame the guy that got me 28 points.
I was going to say, he was the reason you were even in it.
Yeah,
so.
It's one of those things. It hurts for the sequence of events in which it happened because at the end of the day, looking back, like the other things that cost me 2 points, Drake May sailed passes, like that was a rough go. The Cardinals D only getting me 6 against Spencer Rattler and company was pain. Brian Thomas Jr. only getting 8 fantasy points roughly, all of which were essentially off of that jet sweep touchdown that he had. So look, it is what it is. It's a building block week. In the league I care about the most, I was still a top 6 scorer in our league. I still feel good. I feel great about the Henry pick. It's all good. It's more the fact that I don't think I won a matchup in any of my other leagues because I have such similar teams across these leagues, many of which have Drake May as the quarterback, and he was fine. I mean, he went for like 15, so it wasn't catastrophic like a Joe Burrow situation, but it wasn't a great week. At least I didn't get guillotined in our guillotine league, so I'll take that as a win.
And also, interestingly, and oh God, God, I have no way to mute myself now when I do that 100 times.
It's all right.
We did not win our first Brandpire matchup.
Real shocking. I know, real shocking.
And it was funny because when Michael Pittman caught a touchdown early, I'm like, hold on. Mm-hmm. I'm like, do we have a shot here? But we lost to our good friend Puka Glazer 69.
Yep.
Beat us 114-44. Mm-hmm. Running backs in this league are going to be extremely difficult. Mm-hmm. As we started Ollie Gordon, who had 0.8.
Well, it happens.
So I don't know how this is going to work for us, and it doesn't look great in the sense that we're going to have to pick up some guys, and there's not a... We'll talk about it. There's not a ton of $1 million moves this week to benefit a Vampire League team. But no, we're playing our a longtime listener, Nate, this week, and it appears we'll be trying for Bijan Robinson, just like we were trying for Derrick Henry last week. Mm-hmm. I do not have high hopes, so... We'll keep you updated on this throughout the year.
I think there are at least some receivers, even some quarterbacks that we can put together a more competitive team, and I think our team dropped like 40 this week.
And we have Jonnu Smith on the bench.
We do have Jonnu Smith, Harold Fannin Jr. is available. We'll talk about all these fun guys. But, folks, let's get into the news of the week.
Good evening. I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world tonight.
All right, so really only one piece of non-game related news is Tank Bigsby traded to the Eagles for a 5th and 6th rounder. I texted Pat last night because in our main league, Pat is a Saquon Barkley owner. I am a less and less proud now Tank Bigsby drafter. And I was like, hey, yo, you want the handcuff, bro? And he had no idea what I was talking about.
I was out running errands. I had absolutely no idea. And you mentioned that it's not an insignificant return, but then I realized that the Eagles had 4 5th-round picks. So if that's the case, a little bit easier for them. Apparently, Will Shipley. My concern was is this a secret Saquon injury situation?
Yeah.
It seems like it's Will Shipley, who actually didn't look terrible when he was spelling Saquon out there to the point where I was talking to my friends on Discord. I was very mad, and I was I'm gonna create a new slur for white people if I keep seeing Will Shipley with the ball out here.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Besides that, naturally, this does a lot for everyone's favorite backup Jaguars running back, LaQuaint Allen Jr. Mm-hmm. Now vaults to it's like if LeBron was in the old country, LaQuaint. But no, this does really genuinely do a lot for our boy Bashal too. Because
toot, baby.
Are you tooting?
I'm about to. Sorry. Yeah, we're still working out the kinks of this new setup to where I can't hear the sound effects I play, but I know I'm currently playing the toot toot sound effect over and over. I just raised the volume of it. I'm gonna keep tooting. All right, I'm done tooting. Go ahead.
Travis Etienne may turn out to be one of the best values in all of fantasy football with the workload he got, but they felt good enough about Etienne and Bashal Tootin to send away Tank Bigsby, who again was somebody that was spoken very highly of in camp. They felt good enough that if something happens to Etienne, Tootin's their guy. So, is the standalone value going to be there? At least for a while, no. Mm-hmm. With how much we saw from Etienne, but you never know with injuries if something happens here. It could be toot season.
I think what I was most surprised about just in that Jags game in general was LaQuint Allen being involved. And that told me that something needed to happen in this backfield. You don't often see teams willingly play 4 running backs in a rotation. You just don't see it. And we saw that. All 4 of those backs were on the field, and they decided after that to send Tank Bigsby away. I am shocked not shocked, but surprised from a sense that, Bigsby was the best runner on this team last season from a yards per carry, efficiency perspective. So that is why I, drafted him, made that bet in the later rounds. I guess it turns out that, Travis Etienne, much of his difficulties last year, I guess, were injury related. We knew that was a factor of it, but it was also just when he was healthy, even before that injury, the efficiency wasn't great. I guess in hindsight, that was just too small of a sample size for his healthy games. It was only 3 of them where he wasn't very good and then, got hurt after that. So, yeah, Tank Bigsby's going to the Eagles. I don't feel great about that pick anymore because I am not going to hold on to a guy who I'm not even sure would get the job if something were to happen to Saquon. I think you would be looking at a Shipley, Bigsby mishmash of grossness. And so while I'm excited in the sense that he gets to go behind, arguably the league's best O-line, and I'd rather him be a backup behind a great O-line than a terrible O-line in Jacksonville, it's just that's clogging up a bench spot that I'm not going to deal with.
Even though it would be something of a committee, I do feel like Bigsby would be startable on a weekly basis as the most pure runner of the group. And again, behind the Eagles' offensive line in that system, Bigsby would fare well. But yeah, in a couple leagues, I did take Bigsby as well as the dart throw from that running back room, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good.
Yeah. All right. That's really the only piece of, again, non-game related news that we have. We'll get into just the best players of the week, the worst players of the week, the injury report, and, of course, waiver targets. But first, Pat, look, it's always going to be hard with this show, by necessity being one show a week, to talk about absolutely everything that happens in the NFL over the course of a week.
There's so many things I want to talk about.
90 minutes to talk about, all of the stuff that's happened is always difficult. So, especially week one, where it's like you have all these preconceived notions and expectations, and things go against them and some things go toward them. But we're going to do our best to just kind of break down all of the biggest pieces. And so with that said, these are kind of my biggest team takeaways from week one. Kind of the most notable things that just teams did in general, how it relates to fantasy values of the players on those teams. For me, the number one most surprising thing of week one was the Steelers and Jets game. Because
besides the primetime games, the best game of Sunday.
Yeah.
During the day slate by a lot.
100%. And that was the game that everybody, I think, rightfully predicted would be 13-7. I mean, you're looking at two offenses that haven't played with each other in a regular season game before. You had the Freaky Friday swap of Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers not playing any preseason with his new teammates. And more importantly, two teams who their defenses are supposed to be pretty good. So everything kind of lined up for a low-scoring, maybe even mistake-prone sort of game. And yet you had one of, if not the highest scoring game on the slate other than Ravens-Bills. This might have been the second highest scoring game on the entire slate. Rodgers pops off. Justin Fields pops off. Given the fact that these teams were each playing what we, again, thought were good defenses, are these offenses going to be good for fantasy? Where do you stand on this?
I started a lot of Jets defense, including in our league. But, I didn't expect this at all, and I think it bodes well for almost everybody involved, especially on the Jets. The fact that, Breece Hall is that guy. It's funny because we kind of went back and forth on Breece Hall in the preseason, and it seems like when we were fourth, we were right.
Yeah.
In the sense that he is still the guy. He still has the talent. Braylon Allen is going to be a bit of a problem at the goal line. But with Breece Hall's talent, and if he gets these amount of touches, then, again, we're looking at him and Garrett Wilson as two potential insane values. I got Garrett Wilson in the 5th round in our draft. If things work out like this, he easily could be a top 12 wide receiver at the end of the year. And Justin Fields was good enough, man. In terms of getting the ball to them. And the thing about Garrett Wilson, too, the pass catcher and the non-running back with the next most amount of targets was Josh Reynolds with 3. Nobody else had more than 3 targets. Garrett Wilson had 9. So even if Justin Fields kind of regresses back and is the Justin Fields as a passer that we thought he was, Garrett Wilson is still going to volume his way into relevance. He may have some down weeks, but that works well for him. And Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if this was entirely unexpected, because I think with all of the shenanigans with the Jets last year, it was kind of overlooked that he wasn't bad. Is he prime Aaron Rodgers? No, far from it. But he wasn't bad, and you got to think about it. He was with the Jets. Now he's with the Steelers, granted a very stable franchise. And say what you will about Arthur Smith, but, as an offensive coordinator, he doesn't put out bad offenses. So maybe we should have seen this coming.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how much of it I buy on either side. I look at the Steelers' offense first and foremost, and I see still a pretty inefficient offense. Rodgers takes 4 sacks in this game, QBR 62.6, 22 for 30 for 244 yards. The 4 touchdowns is what's really eye-popping there, especially with a pretty mediocre supporting cast. Where we'll talk about, Calvin fucking Austin in the waiver segment here in a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. To me, look, week one's always tough, right? And there's always going to be overreactions and things that you look back at in hindsight. I think forever ingrained in my head is going to be the New Orleans Saints of last year, who just completely fell off. And a lot of that was injury related. But still, I'm going to kind of keep this one in the back of my head. I'm not going to make any major declarations as of right now. But look, it was impressive for Rodgers to not play any of the preseason to come out looking like this. And then from a Jets perspective, I think the most optimistic I am on any player with the Jets is Breece Hall. He just looked flat out better, like you said, than anybody else in that backfield. The concern with him is going to be Braylon Allen getting that goal line work, which he did. I mean, that's just going to happen. Justin Fields is going to steal some with his legs, but Breece Hall is looking like a steal, especially if he fell even beyond ADP in your drafts to 5th round or beyond.
Well, think about it. There were 3 rushing touchdowns for the Jets, and Breece still managed over 15 full PPR points. So that's, it's not his floor, but if that's what he can do without the touchdowns, think about what he can do when he gets those. But I mean, Allen was terribly inefficient. Granted, mostly short yardage situations, so I guess that isn't a huge problem. And I think the biggest takeaway from this game, at least for the time being, if you drafted Caleb Johnson, you're fucked.
Shadow Realm.
You and I were both out on him for a long time, just seeing the preseason work. The fact that he got 1 touch compared to Kenneth Gainwell's 10 just goes to show. And they're giving Kenneth Gainwell, a passing specialist, 7 carries to Jalen Warren's 11. Can Caleb Johnson get there this year? Yes. It's going to take a damn long time, and he's got a long way to go. So if you used any kind of draft capital on Caleb Johnson, you kind of have a pumpkin on your team for a little while.
Yeah, and look, that's the Arthur Smith effect, right? Like I don't know that we expected it to go full Shadow Realm the way that it did, 1 carry for Caleb Johnson, but that's where we're at. And yeah, I would say just looking forward with these 2 offenses, and keeping in mind just general regression, just ask yourself, like, the league leaders in points per game on a team basis year to year in the NFL are like right around 30. 29, 30 points per game. The Steelers scored 34 and the Jets scored 32. So just ask yourself, do you see the Steelers or Jets being the league leaders in points per game? No. So there's going to be some touchdowns, a lot fewer touchdowns for both of these offenses going forward. I think this is going to turn out to be a bit of an outlier game, but either way, stock up for Breece Hall. Stock up for Garrett Wilson, although I do think there will be dud games for him as well. But look, it's as good of a start as you could hope for if you have players on either of those teams, really any player on either of those teams except for Caleb Johnson. This was one that, I was paying attention to because of my sensibilities and fantasy team. The Panthers and Jaguars game, Pat. I, in my main league, had Brian Thomas Jr., Ted McMillan, Tank Bigsby on the bench, whatever. But this game kind of was the opposite of Jets Steelers, where it shaped up as, okay, these offenses look like they should be good. The defenses look pretty fucking awful. Yeah. And so this could be a shootout. This could be great for fantasy purposes. And it ended up being pretty disappointing. The Jags ended up putting up a decent point total by the end. The Panthers looked fucking lost outside of, Ted McMillan actually had a solid game. Still left some meat on the bone there. But how do we feel about these 2 teams going forward? And what are we expecting? Because with Bryce Young especially, like, he looked bad.
I was worried I was going to get guillotined because first of all, I forgot to draft a quarterback. I genuinely forgot to draft a quarterback in our draft.
Fucking clown.
And I dropped Joe Flacco for Bryce Young, like the morning of it. I thought that was genuinely going to cost me in week 1. He looked awful. But again, we've seen Bryce Young look awful and take some time to get into it. So while I do think we need to pump the brakes a little bit on Bryce Young overall, I'm not panicking in the sense that this is kind of going to be the standard. And like you said, Ted McMillan, still good targets share. Chuba Hubbard, who we kind of said, like, oh, Rico Dowdle's there for the passing game. Hubbard, 5 targets. Granted, they were losing, but still, Hubbard to be out there, 5 targets, 3 catches, and a touchdown. That's a positive sign for him as opposed to Dowdle, who only had 3 targets there. So still some positive things to look to there. And the Jags,
it's Brenton Strange season, baby.
The Jags, I think the issue just might be here is that there are so many guys
Yep.
involved. Like you look here, all of Strange, De'Ami Brown, Hunter, BTJ all got 4 or more targets. Granted, BTJ and Hunter are still the guys, but I think the big takeaway, we already kind of mentioned it, is Travis Etienne. The fact that in a Liam Cohen offense that is going to want to run the ball like crazy, he is clearly the guy for the moment. And you probably got him in like the 8th through 10th round. What a steal. What a steal. He should be in your starting line. Granted, I'm talking out of my ass in the sense that I don't have all the matchups quite memorized, but you should be starting Travis Etienne this week.
Well, the Jaguars matchup coming up is the Bengals this week. So, yeah, I would be starting.
Start everybody.
Start Hunter Long again. He scored a touchdown. Start Brenton Strange.
We saw the tight ends carve him up.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, as of right now, like, the Jaguars, it's both expected and unexpected. The fact that Liam Cohen came over and is seemingly revitalizing this run game again, not surprising in the sense that he did it with Tampa Bay, right? Surprising in the sense that he's doing it already with Jacksonville with what we believe to be a much lower tier offensive line. Yeah. The surprising part on top of it is the passing game looking bad again. And I, again, don't want to overreact to week 1. It's Trevor Lawrence in a new system again, but you have to, at a certain point, start asking some questions about Trevor Lawrence. I think if this passing game doesn't put up some... Like, look, they faced the Panthers, and Trevor Lawrence had, 178 passing yards. Like, at what point do we have to kind of start asking these questions?
In a situation, though, where they were in control for a lot of the time and ran it a lot, too. So, I mean, I'd be more interested to see what it looks like when the Jags kind of have their backs against the wall, or more so, a more even game, flow, game script to see. But yeah, in a game where we thought that this could be a big coming out game for the Jaguars, and I mean, I guess it kind of was still 26 points. It did not come from Trevor Lawrence.
No. I mean, and we're looking at, the entire first quarter. The first quarter ended 3-3. And, there was nothing really going on with Trevor in the passing game there. I watched Liam Cohen's presser after the game, and I believe he was asked about just like Brian Thomas Jr. and his involvement and, getting him into the game flow, because I think he had 1 catch. Again, saved the fantasy day a little bit with that rushing touchdown. But almost everything Liam Cohen said was basically, we had Duval. No, we had him open on a corner route and we missed him, and we had him open on this inbreaker and we missed him, and we had him open here and I'm like
7 targets.
I'm like, who's missing him?
Yeah,
it's Trevor Lawrence. Like, can we
targets.
get Mac Jones back in the fold? I mean, he might be starting for the Niners this week. Can we get Mac Jones back here in Jacksonville? My Brian Thomas Jr. stonks are in pain right now. Yeah. I'm gonna hold out hope that it can get a little better. If it doesn't get better against the Bengals defense, and we start out with, let's say another sub 200-yard passing game for Trevor against Carolina and Cincinnati, what are we doing? Exactly. It's kind of Jover at that point.
I'm seeing in the chat now where it's like, make or break year for Trevor Lawrence. No, it's not. They paid the motherfucker. Like, it's not a make.
Yeah.
It's more of a make or break year for the Jaguars organization.
I think that's what it means.
They may not have their guy. Like, again, I still believe that Trevor Lawrence can kind of be another first round pick, Jared Goff type of player, where it's just like solid, serviceable. I'm ready to say that he will never be this kind of prospect that he was, but he can still salvage a strong NFL career out of this. But
it's not the start.
This is his last chance.
Yeah.
Obviously the Urban Meyer was a disaster. You bring in Doug Peterson, you say like, okay, things looked good very briefly, and then that went to shit. And now you bring in Liam Cohen, who just got a ton out of, speaking of another first overall pick who was underwhelming times, Baker Mayfield. Mm-hmm. If he can't get it done with this, he's just not him. He's just not him.
Yeah, and he's got the weapons, he's got everything around him to succeed now. If he doesn't, it's just I don't know, man. I gotta sign Trevor Lawrence jersey over there, man. I'm as big of a Trevor Lawrence stan and believer as there is.
Darren Waller jersey on the floor.
Yeah, it's about to be in the garbage disposal. But it's just not coming together, man. So look, again, we're gonna give this another week. I will say another good takeaway for the Jags was just Travis Hunter and his usage. Yeah. We were told before the game, and it kind of lined up with everything we heard in camp and leading up. He was going to be a full-time receiver, spot playing corner. Funny enough, the one corner snap I saw that they showed on Red Zone, I think it was his first corner snap, and that's why they showed it, was once again Ted McMillan cooking him as he did notably in college, which I just thought was funny.
He had 1 tackle. on defense. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
That's a snap share.
That's important for fantasy.
But, I mean, leading the team in targets, when we
Yeah.
just said with so many viable targets, is a great sign.
Yeah, and he's getting a lot of those screens, those manufactured touches. I would be starting Travis Hunter against the Cincinnati Bengals this week unless you have really immaculate options outside of him.
I'm starting Hunter. I'm starting still. You have to start BTJ.
Of course.
And like I said, with tight end kind of being okay-ish, like if you're
starting Hunter Long.
If you're desperate, Bran and Strange, I don't think is the worst start there. But yeah, this game did not bring really what we wanted. And I guess another team that really, I'd argue the most I don't even think it's an argument. The most disappointing team by I was sitting with some Lions fans at work, and I'm just asking, like, what the hell is going on? Because it was genuinely just, I think what it was that they could not establish the run. And the Packers had full control of that game. And the Lions just did not know how to respond to it.
Yeah.
And granted, I think the Packers are a lot better than maybe people made them out to be. I mean, I know you had them winning the division. I had them as a playoff team. But what do we think about, Jahmyr Gibbs having the fewest yards in NFL history for a player to have 10 catches or more? Granted, 10 catches, PPR, awesome.
Yeah.
Monster game. What do we think about the Lions? Is this something we need to worry about? Or is this just a case of, hey, first game, new offensive coordinator, good team, shit happens?
I think you could look back.
For a second.
You could look back and expect it either way, right? Like, you could look back in a couple weeks and say, oh, the Packers defense, they added Micah Parsons. That defense is just really fucking good. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with, and they're going to make a Detroit offense uncomfortable. At the same time, Pat, the Detroit offense under Ben Johnson was kind of infallible. Like, there was nothing you could really do to throw them off their game. Like, even a game where Jared Goff throws fucking 5 interceptions against the Houston Texans, they still come out and win that game somehow. I'm definitely concerned. I mean, I think it's all but confirmed that, like, this offense is going to take a step back. There's not going to be this just continuation of with Ben Johnson there. Like, it's going to take a step back. Now it's just a matter of how. Breaking news. Okay, Jabril Peppers signed with the Steelers. Whatever. It's just how much of a step back is it going to be? Is it going to be a really big step back like it seemed to be against the Packers, or is it just going to be, okay, we're not going to have the luxury to split Taylor Decker out wide and run him against a corner? Like
Dan Skipper.
Dan Skipper.
Well,
yes, thank you.
Cut him unless they brought him back.
No, I was trying to think of the guy who I specifically remember running that stupid little route. I think they're definitely going to take a step back. I think the team the Detroit Lions will be fine. Like, as far as an NFL team, I think they're going to be a wild card. I think the Packers are going to win the division. I said that last week. I think they're going to be fine from a real life perspective. You're looking at probably like an 11-6 type of season.
Sure.
I think from a fantasy perspective, I'm concerned. Like, this was an offense that supported so many pieces because of how efficient they were on offense. Jahmyr Gibbs is a guy I'm not particularly worried about. He's too good. I think they'll get him involved in too many ways for me to worry about him.
Look at on 19 touches, the guy has, 50 yards, and he still puts up a 6-point game out of it. It's like, that's why at the end of the day, I had the third pick in our draft, and obviously I was deciding between Saquon and Gibbs. And for me, it wasn't really much of a thought even, because that slight worry about that offense taking a step back, even with the Phillies, the Eagles having a new offensive coordinator, I trusted Saquon more, I trusted the line more, I trusted the system more.
Yeah.
Because, still Nick Sirianni is the head coach and offensive coach as opposed to the Giants. Where'd the Giants come from? The Lions with their kneecap eating head coach. So that was why I went with the decision, and I'm very happy with it. But, yeah, I'm not necessarily worried about Gibbs. Amon-Ra, maybe a little more so. David Montgomery, a little bit more so, because, again, you see, in a game where you're down by 14, those short yardage situations, there are none.
Yeah.
Bro, you're trying to take a chunk out of every play possible. So, yeah, I think they're fine. Jameson Williams, that's the thing, is like, I think they're top of the line guys are fine. You're starting Sam Laporta. You're starting Jahmyr Gibbs. You're starting Amon-Ra St. Brown. Guys like Jameson Williams, guys like David Montgomery may be the guys that their effectiveness comes into question here.
Well, and see, I think it's just going to be so annoying week to week for both, like, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. I think there's going to be weeks where one eats, one doesn't. You look at the Lions receiving box score here, and it's like, I'm happy because I drafted Sam Laporta, and he was basically the only one that really had a well-rounded game outside of Jameer stacking up those short-ass little catches. 10 catches for 31 yards is
16,
hilarious.
16 fantasy points.
Laporta went 6 for 79, which is obviously a great day for a tight end. So I just think, Pat, you look at an offense that's going to be less efficient. You look at the fact that Sam Laporta, as I had predicted and hoped, is going to keep getting that sort of second half of last year volume where he was more involved in the offense. And it's like there's just too many mouths to feed, which that used to be a silly perspective to take on the Lions because they were so good and they could feed all the mouths for the most part. Now, they're not necessarily going to be able to. I think, again, obviously you're still starting St. Brown. You're still starting these guys, but like you definitely have to lower expectations. I wouldn't be surprised if St. Brown performs as more of a like late third round fantasy value type of guy. Even Laporta, I'm not expecting it to be all sunshine and daisies all year just because this offense isn't going to be able to support everyone every week. Jared Goff's passing yards, 225, like I expect him to have better weeks than that, but like that's a number that I won't be surprised to see on any given week. So I don't know. It's definitely a little concerning. I don't want to overreact because I do think the Packers defense is going to turn out to be just one of the better units in the NFL. They made him uncomfortable. Micah Parsons was in Goff's face every 5 minutes, and he didn't even play a full allotment of snaps in this game with it being his first one. So I think it'll get better, but I do think the concerns, and it's something I want to try to really drive home because it's something people always seem to overlook in the offseason, at least to a degree, is when teams change offensive coordinators and when they bring in either in-house guys or formerly in-house guys. Like we may talk about the Eagles in a little bit, Pat, but like their offense didn't look as good as it had in the past either in terms of getting guys involved, and that's a Kevin Patullo problem as of right now. And it's like, it's so easy in the offseason to say, oh, they were so amazing last year. Yeah, they lost their OC. It's fine. No, it's not. It might not be fine. Like some of these offenses, it might be fine. I lean toward docking guys a little bit more than average when their offensive coordinator leaves after they just had a great
Especially when
year.
it's that good of it. Like Ben Johnson probably has been the best offensive coordinator in football the last few years. Even though they still have a lot of the personnel there, you can't discount that.
Yeah.
And I will make a hot take about this game. Jordan Love is going to be a QB1 at the end of the year.
I think that's fair.
In a lot of leagues where I punted quarterback, I wound up with Jordan Love, and I am really, really happy about that. He was a QB6 on a point-per-game basis 2 years ago when he was healthy. Last year, he was just banged up. But he looked really good. Again, the issue is just the Packers throw the ball to everybody.
Yeah.
And they run the ball a ton. Josh Jacobs, 1966 touchdown. Awesome. He looked good. But 10 different pass catchers caught a pass. A man named John Fitzpatrick and Savion Williams. Who the fuck are you? But again,
This non-ball knower doesn't know John Fitzpatrick.
that's just going to be the problem here, is that this is going to be a really good offense. And Jordan Love's going to be a really good play, but it's like, I think you still start Tucker Kraft just because of the positional advantage there. But in terms of other pass catchers, you're kind of going to be playing darts here with guys like Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Matthew Golden. It's going to be tough to decipher, but they were honestly, they might have been the most impressive team to me week one here. Just how they came out and just absolutely stomped conceivably the biggest threat to win their division.
Yeah, for me, as of right now, the receivers on the Packers, the receivers specifically, not Tucker Kraft, are all just non-starts for me. Like the narrative leading into the season was, it's either going to be Golden or it's going to be nobody. And right now it's nobody. It's the full committee. It's Dobbs 2 catches for 68, Reed 3 for 45, Wicks 2 for 30. And granted, this was all, the Packers had this game in control. Love only passed for 188 yards. Super efficient day. So kind of the opposite of like the Aaron Rodgers, almost more gaudy counting numbers. But this was a better passing performance from Jordan Love. But he'll get up over 300 yards in certain games. That'll help the receivers. But even then, good luck predicting who it's going to be.
And also, from a Tucker Kraft perspective, every time I would mention him, someone would mention Luke Musgrave in the chat. He was hardly out there. One catch, Kraft severely outsnapped him. So I'm still very high on Tucker Kraft, and I have to be now because I have to start Tucker Kraft for the next who knows how many goddamn weeks, unless I want Jake Tonjes.
I mean, that was a hell of a catch by Jake
It was
Connors. So I
we'll
don't
talk about him.
And
He looked great.
speaking of hell of a catch, just back to the Lions for a second, muddying up the Lions receiving core even more is Isaac Tisslaw. I still, upon watching the replay, don't understand how that was a catch. I have no idea.
For a kid in his first NFL game to make a catch like
Yeah.
that, as meaningless as it was, both from a game perspective and a fantasy perspective, was that his only catch?
It might have been.
Let's see.
Yes, it was. One catch for 13 yards and a touchdown.
As insignificant as it was, holy shit. Man.
Unbelievable.
And then, of course, at the end, they have to say we want to get him more. What are you going to say? The guy just makes an unbelievable catch in his first NFL catch, and you say, yeah, he's all right.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to say you want to get him more involved.
Yeah.
So I think that's more so a speculative ad. If you got a deep bench or something, or a dynasty kind of league there, maybe take a swing on him, but I wouldn't expect him to be something yet. But the kid can play at the very least.
Tisslaw was kind of the guy that was like broke the camel's back of me not considering Jameson Williams in drafts, because it was like I was already thinking about all these things again. The increased Laporta workload, the step back, the offense as a whole might take, but you still had all this buzz about JMO in camp. He looks so much better. He's polishing up the routes. Cool, all that's great. But then I'm like, okay, on top of all those other concerns, you have Tisslaw who's getting buzz himself, and now he makes this catch. Not to overreact to one catch, but it's like, all these things concerned me enough about JMO to not really have him anywhere, and so far I feel good about that.
Sorry, someone in the chat said Raiders.
Yes! All right, last team takeaway here before we move on to Mount Studmore and Mount
Alex,
Bustmore.
close your ears and eyes and mouth and whatever other holes you have.
The Bengals, Pat, they did it again. I saw somebody tweet, they were like, Joe Burrow must have the best PR team because I haven't seen a peep about his performance on here. And I'm like, you haven't seen a peep because we're used to this and we're not concerned. I expected this to not happen finally because he actually played in the preseason. He wasn't dealing with any sort of stupid injury. The Bengals made a concerted effort to play their starters in the preseason, and credit to them, they at least won the fucking game, finally. The Bengals won a game week 1. Barely over the Browns, but at least this lack of hot start, or an extremely cold start, in fact, will not show up in their record. It does show up in fantasy box scores where Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow were disasters. T. Higgins was a disaster. Chase Brown saved his day with a touchdown. But it's like, what do we even do at this point?
I faced a guy, our friend Andy, commissioner, who has Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
I believe they got him in 10.
Yeah.
I played him.
Bad triple stack.
Sorry. My goodness, that's unfortunate. One takeaway, I guess, Chase Brown was the only running back to carry the ball.
Yeah.
Which is obviously, the efficiency was awful. 21 for 43, 2 yards a carry. But, he had the touchdown, some involvement in the passing game, so that's good. Mm-hmm. But I guess we'll talk about it more. Are they in our panic section? No.
No, I kind of just figured we'd talk about them here.
Don't
yeah,
panic.
That's why I didn't even put them in there. I was like, they're exempt.
We'll see what they do. I think the more interesting takeaway here is the Browns.
Yeah.
From the perspective that their running backs are so fucking bad. And granted, Quinshon Judkins is back. He will play. Joe Flacco threw the ball 45 times in a game where they lost by a point. This wasn't like a similar situation to Saints. I guess maybe we'll mention later why I like Saints pass catchers. Throwing the ball 45 times in a game that didn't necessarily need that. The problem is just going to be who gets it.
Yeah.
8 catches for Dylan Sampson, but, Jerry Jeudy, 8 targets. Cedric Tillman, 8 targets. Harold Fannin, 9 targets. And even David Njoku, 6 targets. Again, I wouldn't necessarily... delivery.
My wonderful fiance is here delivering me my coffee because this podcast being at 10 a.m. in the morning now, I need this.
I drank Red Bull on the way here.
I think, I had a smaller cup of coffee when I woke up. But this is the real one. Continue.
It's just going to be kind of a question of which Browns guys do you start? I own Jerry Jeudy in our league, even though it was literally a last-second catch that gave him a decent day with 5 for 66. I'm starting him again this week. Just because of the passing volume and what they're playing, the Ravens, they're going to have to throw a fuck ton in that game against the Ravens.
They're going to have to throw. Are they going to score any points?
They very well might. And I think it's good for Cedric Tillman. Harold Fannin,
I'm a fan.
I mean,
I'm a fan.
yeah.
I'm a fan and a fan. I like him.
I think it's kind of a case of pick him up, maybe not play him, but
Yep.
if you kind of booted the tight end position, pick him up, see what happens.
Yep.
But I do think it's promising for these Browns pass catchers that as long as Joe Flacco is under center, they're gonna fucking throw the ball because, well, granted, this could also, if Quinshon Judkins is available in your league, I'd say he might be the top pickup because after seeing Dylan Sampson go 12 for 29 and Jerome Ford shit his pants every time he touched the ball, that their most effective runner, I believe, was a fullback, Raheem Sanders. He's kind of a hybrid, 3 for 3 and a touchdown.
He's also been on the team for like a week.
So for him so if Quinshon Judkins is available in this league, this is his backfield for the taking when he is ready to do so. But I wouldn't go all in on Browns here, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about just the run game in general. I don't know how much Judkins is. Obviously, pick up Judkins to see what happens. The opportunity will be there. That the lead back job is there for the taking. You almost certainly think it'll go to Judkins whenever he's ready. There's still a possible suspension looming. We don't know what's going to happen with him. Either way, pick him up, speculative, whatever. I just think the run game is bad. I don't think they're going to get a lot of blocking to allow for them to actually get that ground game going in most games. And I think Dylan Sampson showed enough in the pass game now to where whatever role Judkins has is going to be not as fantasy friendly as it could be if they didn't also draft Dylan Sampson. I think Sampson looked a little too good in the pass game.
Well, exactly. I think Sampson
to go away when Judkins takes over here in the backfield. He will take over the early down work, but yeah, I think the pass game is definitely what you want to invest more in there with the Browns. All right, Mount Studmore and Mount Bustmore. These will be our weekly 4 just standout offensive players and 4 absolutely disappointing offensive players that we want to give props or anti-props to, whatever you want to fucking call it. Mount Studmore, Pat, the 4 best offensive players of the week. Got to start with Josh Allen.
Absolutely.
38.6 points.
He is inevitable.
He is a
inevitable.
freak. He is a freak. Watching that Bills-Ravens game was just the highest level quarterback play.
I was going to say, you're watching the 2 best quarterbacks in the league, I think by a considerable
margin. I don't think
real
it's
life and fantasy.
I don't think it's particularly close. You're looking at 2 guys who have mastered like the run game and the pass game. They both can do everything. They both minimize mistakes to such an insane degree. It was a mistake that wasn't Lamar Jackson's mistake that cost the Ravens that game, and it was just unbelievable. Josh Allen is a guy that is going to be able to do this any given week. He won't do it every week, obviously, unless the Bills are going to average 40 points a fucking game. But these types of games are within Josh Allen's range of outcomes on any given week, and if you are a Josh Allen drafter, you are thrilled.
I was going to say, to the point where I'm neither a Ravens nor a Bills fan, and I'm smiling talking about these 2 quarterbacks. They're just that impressive, and I don't know if I own any of either of them, but if you have them, they're going to be worth your pick. I think they're the 2 exceptions where it's wait on quarterback unless it's these 2.
Yeah.
That may be the the notion going forward. But yeah, again, and also really great to see Keon Coleman kind of stand out here.
Yeah.
Keon Coleman very well maybe the guy. Again, he had to throw a fuck ton.
And most of it happened late is one thing I will say. There were some mistakes, stepping out of the back of the end zone on the 2-point conversion attempt.
Yes.
There's still some of these lack of focus things, but when Josh Allen needed plays to be made, that was the guy he went to in the pass game. Otherwise, he went to himself.
Khalil Shakir still had his role. He's going to do his thing. But to see Keon Coleman, I mean, granted, Josh Palmer still had 9 targets there, but I think
where did those when I didn't see him on the field.
Throw the ball 46 times.
Yeah, some of them get lost.
I think arguably the most impressive guy in any game, member number 2 on Mount Studmore, is your boy, Grandpa Derrick Henry. He is just sort of, we kind of talk about it, how I think he's on the Adrian Peterson level of indestructible.
Freak. Yeah.
Where it's, you talk about this running back age cliff. It doesn't fucking matter for Derrick Henry. He is just such a specimen. And even, and in his event, maybe he's not quite as quick as he once was. He kind of had that breakaway where he got ran down. Everything else, his strength, his vision, his ability to shoot the gaps, the guy is just we are looking at one of the best running backs of all time right here. I think if he runs away this year, well, I mean, I think if he retired today, he's going to Canton anyway.
Certainly.
But I think we're looking at, one of the better running backs of all time here. And this just goes to show that if you're fading him for age, just don't do it.
Yeah.
I always say I'd rather be the guy that doesn't jump in and misses it. I'll take the hit with Derrick Henry in the future.
And that was where I was at with him this year,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of myself for
Yes.
making that decision of being like, look, I don't want to be caught holding the bag of an older running back when they fall off, which is why I didn't draft Christian McCaffrey. And look, he's showing himself to be good, so that didn't matter. But like, I was like, look, Christian McCaffrey, I think because of injury history and whatever it may be, 29 years old, he was a guy that I could be like, I could see taking a step back this year. More likely than Derrick Henry, even though Derrick Henry's 2 years older. So I ended up going with Henry for that reason, just identifying him as the exception. And watching him last year, I wanted a piece of that because, and he showed, I wanted a piece of that ass. Showing it, seeing, and I saw exactly what I wanted to see, and I saw exactly why I drafted him in that game against the Bills. You watch Derrick Henry play, and again, like you said, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but you kind of just see he gets the ball. He seems to be kind of lost in the offensive line, defensive line. He's in the pile, and then he's fucking gone.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, how do you keep knowing that defenses are so off balance because of Lamar, because of, there's that offensive line continuity, there's offensive coordinator continuity. All of that made Henry feel like a safe pick. It's why I took him. It's the one thing I can victory lap coming off of an L week 1 in my league, but I feel great about that.
And even with Lamar, you see so many of Lamar's runs come on these RPOs, not necessarily design runs for him. So he, taking only 6 carries from him is not much. And though Lamar did have a touchdown, it was outside the 10-yard line. It wasn't like Lamar dove in. He just doesn't do that.
Right.
But obviously he's still such a good runner. But like you said, it's so difficult for defenses to kind of zone in on either one because you're going to get burned real bad. And again, Henry, it's not that we necessarily worried about it, but all the touches, Zay Flowers had the next most touches wide receiver.
Yeah.
No other running back really took, and we knew that. But again, just good to kind of see that like he is still the biggest load running back.
Biggest load back. I mean, he's just a load
right
physically. And like, look, Justice Hill was out there for his usual role. He'll be involved.
2 carries for negative 14 yards.
I think that run was so funny. I think an underratedly notable piece of this backfield too was like, there was some talk after a strong preseason of kind of doing a little thunder and lightning kind of thing with Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell was inactive.
Yeah.
And John Harbaugh essentially said, Rasheen Ali has his role on special teams. That's why he was active.
Well,
Keaton Mitchell, there's just not room for him on a game day
That's
roster.
the thing,
And
is
so
third running backs, you look on most teams, they play special teams.
yeah. So if there was any even microscopic doubt that this was Derrick Henry's backfield, there's not. It's Derrick Henry's backfield. 28.6 half PPR points in week 1. Absolute monster. Justin Herbert, Pat, taking down the taking down the Chiefs with the Chargers and doing it in impressive fashion. 27.92 fantasy points. Also a shout out to his running mate, Quentin Johnston, who had 22.4. I considered putting him on Mount Studmore, but it's going to go to Justin Herbert. 27.92. This is just the Justin Herbert that I think we all wanted to believe was in there all along. And he looked fucking awesome.
I didn't start him either.
I know you didn't. You're lucky. You escaped with a win, right?
Yes, by a considerable margin. It only cost me 10 points, but again, it was one of those cases where I didn't care because even before the Brock Purdy injury, I knew that Justin Herbert is a must-start quarterback right now. Again, also scampered 7 times, 32 yards. That's not nothing. But yeah, he just looked so good in getting so many guys involved there. I mean, the fact that Quentin Johnston did what he did, yet Ladd McConkey was still able to get 6 for 74. The fact that Keenan Allen still had 7 catches and a touchdown. He's not going anywhere.
No,
And that's
Keenan
the
Allen will
only
be there.
reason why I'm a little apprehensive about Quentin Johnston in the sense of, obviously, he's one of the top pickups this week just because if this offense is as good as it was, then he may have something, but I think that Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen are just so inevitable for Justin Herbert here. And to see a Marion Hampton kind of do not a whole lot, this is going to be an offense that throws a good deal, even though as much as they like to run, we saw Captain Najee out there once. They're going to run a lot, but still, if Justin Herbert can do this, and for them to just go and not beat up on him, but to control the game.
It wasn't,
And again, the Chiefs are Steve Spagnuolo's a terrorist. Like, it's a good defense, it's a good team, and he went out there and did it. I think he's a must start going forward.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
especially now they have the Raiders at fucking 10 o'clock on Monday night. Start Justin Herbert.
yeah, I mean, looking at, just to talk about Quentin Johnson for a second, I think this is not a surprising outcome. This is who he is. These games are, again, within his range of outcomes. He's going to be, I think, an annoying play. I need to turn these notifications off. Yeah, Deshaun Elliott missing a couple weeks, MCL sprain. Unless it's offensive, shut
Someone
up.
mentioned that in chat, actually. They're like, well, this Deshaun Elliott injury might
Unless
be
it's
serious."
offensive, don't talk to me. No, Quentin Johnson,
Offensive.
week 18 of last year against the Raiders, funny enough, maybe he does this again. 25.1 points, 13 catches, 186 yards. But then the 2 weeks prior, he went for 7 and 3. He's going to be a boomer bust player. Like, he's a... They look for him in the red zone. We know that. They look for him down in between the 20s there, or in between the 20 and the goal line. Between the 20s is the rest of the field. They look for him in the scoring opportunities, and I think he excels there. But when those don't happen, I think you're going to be left, scratching your head a little bit with Quentin Johnson. Yeah. He's not going to be this slam dunk guy, but he is going to be a viable sort of boom bust flex, almost in the mold of maybe not quite a George Pickens, because I don't know that he's that high up on the pecking order, but like that kind of idea where...
They both can't catch either. Yeah.
They both can't catch, that's true.
That's the other thing. You can never overlook Quentin Johnson. Hopefully he can get over that, but he was drafted in the first round for a reason. The guy who had elite size and elite breakaway speed to get down the field. Like, with that combination, there's a reason why, but, I'm personally not using any significant waiver stuff on Quentin Johnson, unless I really had to.
Yeah.
Unless, our Brandpire League, for example, we will be picking up and starting Quentin Johnston this week. I think he's available. But, if I have to choose between him and Keenan Allen rest of season, give me Keenan Allen by a very good margin. We're unplugging over here.
Got to plug some holes here.
Unplug my...
No, it's more than my laptop is dying, and that's where I'm controlling the show from. So I'm like, oh, if that happens,
Pat Show.
Wonder how that happened. I mean, we're on the same camera. The show will continue going. It's more. Oh, there we go. Now we're charging. Yeah, no, Quentin Johnson. Look, there's just not going to be that consistency, but you have a guy who has a specific skill set and is attached to what. If week 1 is any indication against the terrorist Steve Spagnuolo, is going to be a really productive offense all year. And I think we have to abandon this notion, too, of it being particularly a run-heavy offense. I think now we have evidence going back to last year where, yes, it's Greg Roman, yes, it's Jim Harbaugh. They know they have Justin fucking Herbert, and he's healthy. Yeah. And I think they know that their best chance to win games, again this year, is going to be leaning on his arm. I mean... Toward the end of that game, they were relentless. They were just throwing and throwing, and it was working.
I unfortunately had a gig that night. I did not see a snap
of
this game.
Dude, it was unbelievable watching Herbert just dice it up. There was no thought to run the ball at all, even in a game where they were leading for most of it. It was truly unbelievable. So yeah, look, Justin Herbert is that dude, and I am excited to see him going forward because he's finally healthy, and I think he finally might show people why, despite the lack of success, why he is if man, why people continue to put him in sort of that top 5 conversation. And it's because when he's on, he's so
that is one of my favorite Twitter memes where someone just tweets if, and then someone will quote it circling it with Justin Herbert's face. Just so ridiculous, but he looked good. Another Justin that looked very good, as we mentioned, Justin Fields.
Yep.
A good passing day, obviously, especially for his standards. He ran well, got 2 touchdowns, didn't he? Yep. And like I said, I think the big winner here is Garrett Wilson, because even if he doesn't have as great of a day, he can volume his way to relevancy because there is nobody else there, except for he'll throw to Breece Hall as well. But this is a great, if you drafted Fields again, you got him at good value. You probably took him around the QB 11-12 range, where you're getting someone who we know is a really strong runner. And this Jets offense looked pretty good.
Yeah.
They didn't look bad at all. And I think it started with Fields there. Maybe Tanner Engstrad is just kind of Ben Johnson Jr. He's the Ben Johnson disciple that, the Lions wish they had right now. Again, I'm not getting too far ahead of myself because it is the Jets here. But like I said, I will start getting a little ahead of myself on Garrett Wilson here. There may be some dud weeks. But I think even those dud weeks, we're still looking at 8-9 targets in those kinds of games. Anyway.
I think we expected that. It's more that those 8-9 targets might turn into 23 yards. Because I think that's going to happen, here and there.
Another mention. What the fuck? Hollywood Brown had 16 times. I was just thinking because I was thinking about that game last year where Wilson had 23 targets in London.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I didn't see a second of this game. I know Xavier Worthy got hurt. Obviously, no Rashee Rice. I almost audibly choked when
Yeah,
I saw
let me-
Hollywood Brown.
Let me
16
let you
targets.
in. Let me let you in on something since you didn't watch the game. 16 targets turned it into 10 catches, 99 yards. Cool. He had 50 yards within the first 14 of those targets. He got his long catch of 49 yards on either the 15th or 16th target.
But at the end of the day, you're looking at a big boom bust target.
Yes.
With Patrick
yes.
Mahomes, who also looked great.
It's just these types of players frustrate me more than any other, and we'll talk about his viability in our waiver segment, $1 million moves, in a couple minutes here. But it stresses me out when it's a player who seems to be earmarked for so much volume, and yet they just kind of fucking stink. That's just not a fun player to start. It's like I don't like starting bad, quote unquote, bad football players, and yet dozens upon dozens of those types of guys are relevant in fantasy every year because injuries happen. You get into a certain role. Not everybody who has a starting role on an offense is like, oh my God, that guy's such a good football player. Hollywood Brown is the definition of fucking mediocre at this point. And yet, he might be the last man standing in this passing game. So,
like last year, Mahomes killed Rashee Rice. This year, Kelsey killed Xavier Worthy. Next year, they're going to get Sky Moore back, and someone's just
oh God,
they're
Sky
going to
Moore.
kill Mecole Hardman. All right, on the other side of this, Bustmore, Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust. We mentioned the Cincinnati Bengals here.
Yeah, there's not much to talk about here.
Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, who was like this dazzling, by far the best
stack you can have.
Yada, yada, yada. They had a shit game against the Browns. That's not good. This is what the Bengals do. I'm not worried.
No,
I'm not worried about
fine.
either of these guys. Nico Collins is another who we thought was kind of just going to be an automatic, productive player. This was a really ugly game on both sides. I figured this was kind of going to be a much better game here. CJ Stroud just threw it to everybody. And we kind of thought maybe that would be the case, but with Collins head and shoulders above everybody else, nope. They threw to everyone. Dalton Schultz actually had the same number of targets as him, with Cade Stover not too far behind. So, any worry about Nico Collins here?
Not particularly. I think you look at a Rams defense that, like, we already had concern over the Texans O-line, and that definitely reared its head. Like, that does not seem to be something that was solved. But the Rams D-line, better than many across the league.
Sure.
So CJ was under a lot of pressure in this game. QBR, horrible. So no, I'm not necessarily worried about Nico Collins. I think the Rams also knew they really only had one player to worry about on that offense, especially with no one in particular in the run game alive at this point. It was kind of stop Nico Collins and then go from there. No Christian Kirk in this game. I think they will face easier defenses. I think Christian Kirk will be back to take some of the heat off of Nico. I am not worried about Nico. I think he's going to be a target vacuum going forward. This was just a bad start for him, a bad start for the Texans. But no, I mean, it sucks, but I'm not. The only thing that concerned me was, again, even though the Rams D-line is great, like, the O-line is going to continue to stink. But Nico thrived in that last year, so I'm not necessarily worried about him. A.J. Brown, though, 1.3 points for the Philadelphia Eagles. He kind of kicked the season off with... That was the concerning performance that kicked the season off.
Stunned. Because, like, he wasn't even being targeted.
Yeah.
This isn't a case where it's just like, oh, they couldn't connect. He wasn't being targeted. And we've seen numerous times now, I think at least 2 times, where he's been vocally, same thing, upset with Jalen Hurts not targeting him. I haven't really heard anything about...
I think he's hurt. I think he's more hurt than we think. I don't think he's 100%. Because I think you would have seen that more of that complaint if he knew he was deserving of more targets in that game.
I was so surprised about that. And it wasn't like anybody else really, because like Devontae Smith did not have a particularly good game.
Jahan Dotson, leading receiver, baby.
Dotson,
never wrong. Only early when I picked him over Terry McLaurin 2 years ago.
They had 12 of 20 pass attempt targets to non-receivers, Saquon and Dallas Goedert, and throw in an extra one there for Kyle Granson.
Kylan Granson. You always miss the end.
I always say
you always miss the end.
I had no clue his name was Kylan. Kyle. Sorry, Kyle.
Sorry, Kyle and
punch
Granson.
A wall and drink a Monster. But I think this was just a case where the running game was effective enough with both Hurts and Saquon They didn't really need to throw a lot. I'm concerned about A.J. Brown, not necessarily in the long run.
Yeah, in the early, if A.J. Brown was probably your second-round pick if you have A.J. Brown on your roster in most leagues. And if he is dealing with some kind of phantom injury, or if Kevin Patullo is just that incompetent, it's going to be an issue if he's costing you games in that first month of the season. I think, honestly, this is the most frustrating part of fantasy football is injuries that are unreported. And for anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, like A.J. Brown had a hamstring injury in the waning days of camp, and we never really got like a true maybe we did, and we just don't necessarily need to believe it, but like a true he's good to go, he's 100% report kind of thing. It was kind of just, hamstring injury, we'll see. He was out there week 1, and I don't know, man. This was not a outlier game that you just kind of expect or have even seen from A.J. Brown in the past. Yes, receivers come and go with high and low point totals, but this, I can't, and I don't have the stat in front of me, but this was the lowest targeted A.J. Brown has ever been in a game of his.
Oh, it has
and
to be.
that is a problem, whether it's week 1 or not, like week 1 overreactions or not. Like, that is notable for it to have essentially never happened before. And you got to think there's a reason for it.
I was just waiting for him to sort of do something as someone who was facing him.
You're still waiting.
And then it just never fucking happened.
Yeah.
And a bit of news here. This is going to be really shocking, so everybody at home, hang on to your seats. This is actually something of news. Tyreek Hill's estranged wife has alleged in court filings that he committed domestic violence, which the Dolphins receiver has vehemently denied. Kieta Vaccaro alleges 8 separate instances of domestic violence in filings related to the couple's divorce case. Obviously, we live in the USA, the land of the free, home of the brave, innocent till proven guilty. Wouldn't be surprised this is a...
You mean to tell me that the man who had a audio recording of his wife saying that he broke the child's arm, his own child's arm.
Didn't he break that fat bitch's leg too or something?
Yeah, that was fucked up. That was a little bit less like full-on malice, I think. It was still fucked up.
I wish she would break my leg.
All right. And you mean to tell me that this man, Tyreek Hill has the cleanest past you can really come up with for a player. He's a great guy. I, for one, don't believe these allegations. No, he probably did it. And he's... For everyone's benefit, get him off the fucking team. For fantasy benefit, for Dolphins benefit, honestly, at this point, for Tyreek's benefit, get him the fuck off the team. So we'll see if that turns
this
into
actually
anything.
kind of segues into this next segment, Panic or Patience.
Yeah, just real quick, to recap. Mount Studmore, Josh Allen, Derrick Henry, Justin Herbert, Justin Fields. Mount Bustmore, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Nico Collins, A.J. Brown. Panic or Patience?
Miami Dolphins, panic. Literally, I forget the Colts receiver who was on the Dolphins last year.
No. Colts receiver who's
Colts corner, I'm sorry. Colts cornerback that said, basically, they knew that Tua gets the ball out so fast that they just killed his first read. And he said he was panicking, effectively. It's like, if that is that easy of a formula to absolutely kill that offense's productivity, I'm very concerned. I'm not concerned about Devon Achane.
No, he's the only one that's the
only one that seems
proof of
because
this.
One, the running game is the running game. He's as talented as he is, and he will catch passes, no matter what. But Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, I'm very concerned because again, Tua's healthy, it could be different. But if it's that easy to beat them with a too high safety or just trying to really cover hard on the first read, and they had no other answer for it, that's a problem. That's a big problem.
It's funny to me because football is such a complicated sport, right? Like there's all these schemes, there's all these different things, and it's like we're at the end of the day, Pat, you and I are fantasy guys first and foremost. We don't know as much about the weeds of all of the intricacies of NFL game planning, which is why it's so funny to me that the Dolphins seem to be so neutralized by something that everyone can understand.
Well, that's what I mean.
And that it's that
Any team
simple.
can do this, exactly.
It's that simple. The Colts ran the highest percentage of too high in week 1 and dominated the Dolphins because of it. And it's just like, guys, you really don't have a counterpunch to this? Like, there's really not, like, teams just do this against you, and that's it. Wrap it up. If Devon Achane doesn't break a 70-yard touchdown, you're just cooked. And they don't have Jonnu Smith anymore to help out in that intermediate area. This almost makes me wonder if when Darren Waller's active, if he's actually going to be really involved. Because they right now have no answers for this just taking away their over-the-top passing plays, defensive strategy. And yeah, I mean, panic for the Dolphins, like 10, like got to be 10 for the team as a whole.
I'm close to it, yeah.
I think we're just going to do panic meter here, 1 to 10. I think it's a 10 for the Dolphins.
I'll go
for the Achane again is the only one that I'm not. I think Achane is going to be fine. Granted, he did need garbage time to kind of save his fantasy day as well.
I'm still a happy Devon Achane owner.
Yeah, I mean he'll still be fine. But so I wouldn't panic on him. Everybody else, yes. Panic or patience, Pat? Ashton Genty. So guy that obviously I talked up a lot. A guy that you as a Raiders fan are big on. And his fantasy day was okay, but it was buoyed by the touchdown. Yeah. Otherwise, 19 carries for 38 yards. How do we feel about it?
I think this is maybe a case of the Raiders. Again, they don't have the best offensive line. It's not as bad as it was. But I think they're just taking time to get the run game going. Because, I mean, we saw Genty have some inefficient games in the preseason as well. I'm not panicking on Ashton Genty. I mean, I would say, 3 in the sense that, this Raiders team just may not be that good offensively. So, he may have some more dud games. But he's still getting... I think he had almost all the carries. I had this game.
Yeah, I mean, that big part of that game, Pat, Raheem Mostert was inactive, which was surprising to me.
Zamir White only 3 carries. A slight worry, too, as well. Geno Smith threw the ball a lot, and he likes to sling it, so maybe that. But at the end of the day, I'm not worried about Ashton Genty. I'll say 3 here on the panic meter.
Yeah, I'm with you. It was not the start you wanted from him, but from a workload perspective, it was. And, this was something that I said, even in the worst case scenario for him, the thing you can fall back on is I think he might touch the ball 400 times this year. And as of right now, he's maybe not on pace for quite that many, but he's not off of that pace fully either. I also think for as disappointing as the Patriots were, and I mean, I've barely even talked about them outside of throwing your Raiders jersey in the corner, but as disappointing as they were, this is still a good defense. Christian Gonzalez was inactive, but Patriots paid a lot of money to Milton Williams to help kind of solidify that interior defensive line. I think they made life hard on Ashton Genty. I think this is another one where in a few weeks you might hindsight this and be like, oh, anybody freaking out about Genty under 40 yards? Well, turns out he might have been facing just one of the better defenses, at least in that part of the defenses in the league. So I'm not worried about Ashton Genty. Kenneth Walker, Pat.
I'm worried.
You're worried about Kenneth Walker.
It was really funny because I remember early in the summer we did a potential breakout, and I said Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah, that's looking good right now.
And then I really pulled back because I have a lot of Kenneth Walker. Mm-hmm. Because I just kind of thought that, Charbonnet is a really good player, but Kenneth Walker still got it. Zach Charbonnet has just as big of a role as Kenneth Walker. I mean, Walker caught passes. Charbonnet wasn't even targeted. But for him to be out there as much as he was, to out-carry him, to get the goal line work. I mean, I don't think Kenneth Walker is dust, but I think his upside is being severely capped. But because Clint Kubiak loves Zach Charbonnet here. Mm-hmm. So if you got Zach Charbonnet, awesome. If you got Kenneth Walker, like I said, I think I've got Kenneth Walker on 3 teams, and I drafted him in the 4th round. I'm very concerned. I'll go 7 here.
I'll go 4 on Kenneth Walker. I'm not overly concerned yet. When you look into how that game played out, they were at the start of each drive essentially alternating Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet, and I mean, maybe this is some cause and effect here, but the drives with Charbonnet on the field lasted longer. And so, therefore, he was out there for more snaps, touched the ball more. I do not have in front of me whether Kenneth Walker is at fault for the drives that he played, those drives happening to stall out. But I think you're going to see the touch total. I think Kenneth Walker is going to lead this backfield in carries more often than not. That didn't happen this week. Charbonnet 12, Kenneth Walker 10. I think I would expect Walker to finish with more carries than Charbonnet on the season, provided health. And also in the pass game, I mean, Walker was targeted 3 times, only turned that into 3 catches for 4 yards, but the Seahawks passing game was kind of desolate in general. The 49ers defense looked good. Robert Saleh's back. He's got those boys buzzing around. So I'm not super worried yet. I think, again, week 1. right?
Yeah.
If we're talking about the same thing next week, yeah, we'll start to panic a little. Maybe we'll run this back with some of these guys next week and see if we're panicking because they did it again. As of right now, I'm okay. I think I'm going to believe in Clint Kubiak, believe in that offensive system, and just believe that Kenneth Walker can get it going. Sam Darnold was not good in leading this offense just in general. 16 to 23, 150 yards. I also never noticed how hilarious their receiving box score was. Jackson Smith-Njigba, 9 catches, 124 yards. Next highest, Cooper Kupp, 2 catches, 15.
He may be in a similar vein to Garrett Wilson, where he was another guy I didn't love, but if he's getting this much volume, even in games where they don't play that well, he's going to be really effective. All right, your boy, Travion Henderson.
Travion.
Carried by Ramondre Stevenson. I'm not panicking on Henderson here just because I think he just flat out looked so much better than Stevenson. And it was kind of the case where Stevenson was out there at the beginning. Henderson comes in and injects some life into this. And catching 6 passes on 6 targets is really big for him, too. I'll honestly put this at like a 2. Like, I'm not, again, it just might be the Patriots may not be that good. And he just may have some down games. But I think he's just flat out so much more talented than Stevenson. They use such a high pick on him. I think eventually, Josh McDaniels, not Kyle Shanahan, Josh McDaniels, the Patriots OC, will come to his senses and just realize this kid is so much better and we need to utilize him. So I'm not concerned at all.
Yeah, I'll put it at a 1 for me as well. It was concerning to me early in the game. Again, I have Red Zone on, but I'm also watching the Patriots game simultaneously on its own. And so it was concerning to me to see the first 2 drives, Henderson not on the field really. He might have come on at the end of the second drive, but Mondre started the game. That's not surprising. And I figured at that point, okay, they're going to do the drive alternating thing. Second drive starts, Ramondre's still out there. I was like, uh-oh, this could be a problem. It ultimately evened out. Travion was out there a lot. This wasn't really anything beyond what we expected. Like, we expected Ramondre to remain involved. But yeah, you look at this box score, Patriots just had a rough day in the run game. But Travion Henderson still led them in yards. 5 carries for 27 yards. Ramondre, 7 carries for 15 yards. Ramondre just appeared to have no juice. So, the more and more that they get Travion involved here, the better and better he'll be. The 6 targets is really where you lean on and be like, okay, that's great. None of those went anywhere. I mean, 6 catches. He caught all 6 targets, which is awesome. Turned him into 24 yards. But he's getting those touches manufactured. He's getting those easy sort of catches. They just need to turn into a little more. What concerned me, Pat, was the Raiders' defense isn't supposed to be very good. And
they were very good.
They played very well.
A very good game. That was
so,
my big takeaway. For everyone's like, "Oh, the Raiders won," and I'm like, "Yeah, but the defense was good."
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not panicked. And then last one, your boy
Isaiah Pacheco.
I'm actually not quite as concerned as you may think, just because I think the Chiefs just didn't get to play their game, which is controlling the tempo, running the ball a lot. Yes, him having the same number of carries as Kareem Hunt is concerning, but I just think at the end of the day, they didn't get to play their kind of football. And I don't, while they may not be quite as good anymore, I still think there's going to be a lot of chances where they're in control of the game script. So I'll put it at like a 4 for Isaiah Pacheco here. So it's like, I'm acknowledging that there is some concern, but I think it was more of a circumstantial thing. Maybe come back in a few weeks and we say the Chiefs aren't quite as good as we think they are, then maybe it may be time to panic.
I'll put it at like a 6. I'm going to put it a little higher than you. I think the sheer involvement of Kareem Hunt, despite game script, they weren't able to do what they wanted. Obviously, in an ideal world, the Chiefs are leading the entire game and they're able to, have more than, let's take the Mahomes carries away from this backfield. They're able to have more than 11 carries in the run game. But even still, I would still want to see Isaiah Pacheco out there in situations where they're trying to come from behind. Kareem Hunt is just not a better back, or at least we don't think he is, and yet
he was only good last year because of the volume.
And yet they kept
to touch the ball.
They kept giving him that volume, and I'm like, Pacheco's healthy. He looks healthy. He's running hard, and yet he's still not playing the snaps you would expect him to play. I'm concerned. Obviously, he can save games in the future, even if the split stays this way, by getting the touchdowns that we expect to come with this Chiefs offense when they look better in future weeks. But it's just not the volume that I wanted to see, not the playing time I wanted to see. Injury report, we'll go over these real quick before we get into our waiver segment. George Kittle, hamstring injury, Pat. He is expected to miss about a month of action. Unfortunate because he started the game out so hot. He came out looking like your tight end one on the year.
I was so happy with that first touchdown. I'm like, this is good. And you could tell right away on that run where he just... And for them to rule him out that quickly over a hamstring, you knew there was trouble. And also Juwan Jennings, too. I think this just bodes well for two guys in particular. Throw Brock Purdy in there as well. Brock Purdy's got a shoulder and a foot issue, I believe. Even with Mac Jones, this bodes extremely well for Ricky Pearsall and Christian McCaffrey, who we did our guillotine draft. We drafted 1-2. I had McCaffrey as my number 2 player behind Derrick Henry for the week. He took Bijan and threw me Henry, but I think this bodes great for them. It's unfortunate about Kittle. We'll talk about some tight ends that are available. I don't necessarily know if like Jake Tonjes or Luke Farrell is going to emerge here. I don't trust that. I'm not. I'm looking elsewhere. But after injuries ravaged this team last year, and we're like, oh yeah, this team's going to be really good, and then they just
it's crazy already.
Again.
They've been cursed like this for years too. Last year was the worst it had been, certainly, but they've been cursed like this for a long time, and it's fascinating with the Niners. They need better medical facilities or something. It does appear that Juwan Jennings' shoulder injury is not serious, according to Ian Rappaport, so he is expected to, as of now, play week 2. Brock Purdy is one to watch. He is dealing with an injury as well. We could get Mac Jones, but that is just, it's too early to tell as of right now. Drake London left with, I believe, also a shoulder injury, so he is one to watch. I'm not sure any pass catcher on the Falcons is healthy outside of Kyle Pitts. So we will be watching Drake London.
I didn't see much of that game. Did Kyle Pitts do anything?
Box score wise, I'm not sure what he finished with. He flashed a little bit. Yeah, he did some things which makes me upset. I don't have the numbers.
7 for 59. That's not bad.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean, I believe Bijan was the only player all week that had 100 yards and a touchdown. Maybe somebody in one of the primetime games did, but I know going into Sunday night, he was the only player.
Derrick Henry certainly did.
Well, receiving yards.
Receiving yes.
And it's Bijan. Yes. So even though, again, Tyler Algier is involved there, Bijan's good. But yeah, Falcons, it's tough. But Penix did look good. We'll talk about him shortly. Xavier Worthy, very sad, getting taken out by his own team here. Seems like it's at least going to be a few weeks. He was a guy that I was really high on, but actually found myself, I don't own any of him. And he was always a guy where I would be like, oh, here's Xavier Worthy. I'm picking him, and somebody else did. But unfortunate, again, the top target for Patrick Mahomes. We'll talk about some guys you may want to replace him with.
Yep.
And what's wrong with Evan Engram?
He left the game. I'm not sure severity. Let me pull it up real quick. Let's see. Evan Engram, calf injury. Unlikely to return to the game late in the fourth quarter after being seen limping around the sideline. So we'll see on Evan Engram. We don't know exactly the severity on this one either, but one to watch if you are relying on him as your primary tight end.
Somebody mentioned in the chat, Bo Picks did not look particularly good here. And outside of Cortland Sutton, they throw the ball to a lot of people. So it's like, if Engram is out, I think it's just going to be more of a case where they may throw more to Sutton and then just throw it to everyone else. I don't necessarily see someone emerging.
I'm so excited with all these injuries we've been bringing up that, it's benefiting Cortland Sutton, who I'm facing this week. It's benefiting Christian McCaffrey, who I'm facing this week. This is going to be a great week for the brand over here, for the brand. Anyway, Pat, I didn't do the, hold on, I'm going to do it because I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did the ouch.
Oh, yeah, I didn't press the fucking, see, this is what happens when I can't hear anything here. I'm a ouch. Normally, when I'm not a noodle brain trying to adjust to the new podcast setup, that will be what I play before the injury report.
We're straight white men. We have a problem with change.
Anyway, let's move on to the waiver segment, a.k.a. our $1 million move.
Make it move, 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 make it.
All right,
love that one.
I
didn't even just hear it, but I love that.
That's a wrestling reference for those of you out there. The primetime players, baby, making $1 million moves. All right, these are your waiver targets for week 1, Pat. I feel like I'm always hoping or looking out for the Puka Nacua types, or throw it way back, the Arian Foster types, the guys that are clearly going to define the season. I don't think we have any of those week 1, but we have a lot of viable guys. Let's start with the quarterback position. Michael Penix Jr. looks legit, man.
I think the concern, again, is just that that's a banged-up team, but he still managed to put up nearly 300 yards, didn't turn the ball over, and threw in a fun little rushing touchdown. Again, similarly, not necessarily known for a runner, but he can, one of those guys like Caleb Williams that can run. Like,
Yeah,
he's not a runner, but
I
he
feel
can
like
run.
it seems like watching the games around the league, it seems like every quarterback is almost doing that now. At least if you're not an old guy.
Like Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, they're not
Yeah,
doing it.
but it's like J.J. McCarthy did this last night.
was gonna say, yeah, I think-
Penix is doing, like, it's basically, if you're young, it's almost like you almost don't have an excuse not to threaten teams with your legs if you can at least do it. Like, you obviously have to learn, you have to know how to protect yourself as well, but that is just an entirely different element of playing the quarterback position that adds so much if you can even do it just a little bit.
Yeah.
And Penix, 6 carries, 21 yards, touchdown on a 12-yard run. Just doing that, even making defenses hesitate for a second is so huge. He looked good on it. He Superman stretched across the goal line. It was very impressive.
And you mentioned J.J. McCarthy. We got him here too.
Much higher percentage owned than I
Owned in
thought he
66.
was.
It makes sense because
Yeah.
I would see him getting drafted a lot just because I think this Vikings offense was kind of more of a sure thing than the Falcons. Definitely looked bad at the start. Jitters.
I mean, it
I
was
thought
crazy.
they were going to get killed. Great game, by the way. That game, I didn't fall asleep at halftime like I did for the Bills one. So I was able to catch all of this one. Great game, and you just saw JJ just really build confidence.
I mean, I think I'm a full-on JJ believer after that game. Like that, Pat, funny enough, in our league, because I had Keaton Mitchell as a handcuff to Derrick Henry, who then got ruled out, I was able to put Keaton Mitchell on my IR and just kind of pick up someone for free. And because there was only one game after the Ravens game, I was like, I'm going to pick up some Viking or Bear and see what happens. JJ was available.
So you picked him up?
I picked him up.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I have JJ McCarthy on my roster, and with how Drake May looked week 1, I'm kind of happy just to see how things play out. And not just because I own him in fantasy now, but that was impressive, man. Like, I am a full-on believer in JJ. The fact he did not get rattled even for a second in that game. He played 3 quarters of really bad football.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the fourth quarter came out, accounted for 3 touchdowns, and won them the fucking game. I mean, that's the kind of thing that you can't really teach a quarterback. And when you're already in a system that is so conducive to getting the most out of your talents, even if they are limited sort of physical talents, that sort of mentality is exactly what you need to thrive in that kind of offense. If JJ is available in your league and you have kind of a later round quarterback, if you have a Lamar or Josh Allen, don't worry about it. But if you even think you might be in the market for a quarterback, I'd pick up JJ, see how things play out this week against the Falcons, because that was just massively impressive. I am fully on the JJ train.
And you know who else was very impressive? As much as we hate to say
Fucking
it,
shoot me.
it's Daniel Jones, who's owned and arguably should have been on Mount Studmore.
I had him. Yeah, I thought about it.
Nearly 30 points, 5% owned here. Could this just simply be a case that Daniel Jones is what Shane Steichen wanted Anthony Richardson to be? Because think about it, they had an offense revolving around a running quarterback who, granted, isn't a great thrower, but maybe Richardson is just that bad to the point where
God, how sad is
Daniel
that?
Jones actually fits this. Like, could Daniel Jones be the guy that kind of saved Shane Steichen's life here? Like, because I kind of thought it was flipped. I thought the Colts were going to be fucked. I had the Dolphins. I didn't pick the Dolphins, but it seems like the Colts, it kind of worked. And, great connection with Tyler Warren already looks phenomenal.
He does.
I didn't realize his flow game. I was unfamiliar
Yep.
with his game there. And Michael Pittman, who somehow went undrafted in our vampire draft. So,
Yep.
we have actually a decent wide receiver 1 on our team already. But I think at the very least, pick him up and see what happens here. Because we know it's Daniel Jones. He's going to play like shit sometimes.
Right.
But certainly worth to pick up, as is Aaron Rodgers. Shocked he's only owned in 9% of leagues. Because like I said, he did play well last year. Is he going to do what he did this week every week? Probably not. The Steelers are going to have some ugly fucking games. But again, it's week 1. A lot of these are speculative. We know what Aaron Rodgers does. I think it's a little more of a sure thing than some of these younger guys. Not necessarily he's going to be a starter, but that he should be considered.
Yeah, I think I'm staying away from Rodgers. Again, that just wasn't a particularly impressive showing from a efficiency standpoint, all those things. I think he was juiced up for a game against the Jets. I'm not trusting million-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Again, you get these guys that don't add anything with their legs, and I'm kind of just out on them.
Yeah.
But
Did he have a rushing touchdown, though?
Rodgers, I
I believe he did.
Did he? No.
I thought
He had 4 passing touchdowns, so I don't think he had. If he had a rushing,
I thought he
would've
dove
had a
into the end
million
zone. No,
points.
he didn't.
But on the Daniel Jones front, like, I do think it's worth pointing out that Dolphins ass. I think important context to add. But Daniel Jones, let's just say this is best case scenario. and he goes back to 2022 form, where he was like a pretty relevant. He finished as QB9.
The money was too much, but he was
Yeah.
at least deserving of a contract in that range.
He was
had
able
have done
to.
something.
He had something to help convince the team that he might be worth that much. Yeah. But you look at that season, Pat. Like in that season, I have his game logs 2022 up right now. Against Jacksonville in Week 7, he had 28.8 fantasy points. Against the Colts. That's funny. Against the Colts in Week 17, 36.2 points. But you also have littered throughout this. Like I'll just start from Week 1 and go on. 17, 13, 14, 21, 12, 13, 28, 9, 18. It's going to be up and down. This isn't going to be a guy that's going to give you all these points just because he's a rushing threat every single week. He's going to have those weeks where he remembers that he's Daniel Jones and can't complete a fucking pass. But firmly on the streaming radar, which we knew. I mean, I think we said this before, that he would be on the streaming radar as a starter because he uses his legs so much. I don't think we knew the upside was quite this high.
No.
So season-long option, not necessarily, but...
Also, for Jonathan Taylor to still have a solid day as well. He didn't get a touchdown, but he was still very, doing Jonathan Taylor things. So this Daniel Jones just might work in this offense. Running backs, you mentioned our boy Toot Toot. Obviously, pretty much just a direct handcuff at this point. I think ETN's going to get everything here. Not everything, but be more of a big load back than we expected him to be. But ETN did have some injuries last year. If that happens again, Tootin goes into the role with LaQuaint Allen, I guess, kind of spelling him. But he's 42% owned. And then Dylan Sampson again. The fact that you catch 8 passes, that Browns offense stinks.
It's just cheap PPR
They're going to be
gold.
throwing a lot, but even when Quinshon Judkins is back, it seems like Dylan Sampson is going to be the one involved in that running game. So, again, I'm very surprised he's only owned in 33% of leagues.
too.
He was one of my favorite late-round darts.
Yep.
We mentioned Quentin Johnston. We mentioned Hollywood Brown.
Hollywood Brown, again, not a great player, but target-wise, like, unless the Chiefs go out and get somebody while Worthy's out, more than a viable flex start.
Speaking of bad players, Juju Smith-Schuster, if Worthy is out,
To at least think about
he's a
him.
guy that they keep bringing back, almost like their new Mecole Hardman or MVS, just a guy that fits in their system. Cedric Tillman, I think, is, out of these wide receivers, maybe the biggest pickup just because the Browns are going to throw so much. And he had a couple really good weeks last week. Like, he's a talented guy.
Cedric Tillman pre-injury last year was
before his
really
head got
good.
blown off or whatever.
Target-wise, he was up over 8 targets in like every game he played pre-injury. Pat, I think there's a world where Cedric Tillman is just a better receiver than Jerry Jeudy.
I think he is.
And so if you can get that guy on an offense that's going to throw it a fucking lot, like, go get Cedric Tillman. I think he feels like a sort of safe play, at least given matchups. He had another 8 targets in this one, 5 catches, 52 yards, and a touchdown. Like, he'll give you some stinkers too, but...
Is he a guy that, like, I'm going to pick up and put in my starting lineup this week? No.
Right.
But when bye weeks and injuries happen, I think you're going to be happy to have a guy like Cedric Tillman. God, Juju's... T. Sharp pointed out that Juju was only 28 years old. He is my age. I thought he was like 50.
Juju is 95, and you will not
And
tell me
then
otherwise.
Keyshawn Boutte is
Booty, rocking everywhere.
I don't trust the Patriots pass catchers
How
at this
dare
point.
you? How dare you?
This has been like
Respectfully.
this for years, and many of those years were spent with Josh McDaniels, where they'll just throw to anyone and everyone, and it changes on a weekly basis. I think a bigger takeaway is Hunter Henry for me, just again, because positional needs. I'm not really looking into Boutte much, but again, if next week we're talking about him again, and we're having another nice game,
I'll say this on Booty. He was actively making plays. It was not, throw to him because he's, kind of open in zone coverage in the middle of the field. Like, this was a guy who was beating corners, making contested catches. The only player, Pat, it reminded me of, and we don't have to talk about UConn football fucking blowing a game to Syracuse this weekend as well. I want to die.
Goodness.
But it reminded me exactly of watching UConn football and seeing Skylar Bell, who, despite being on UConn football, is going to get drafted, being the only one that can make a fucking play for the team. That was what Keyshawn Boutte looked like. He just looked to be a different level of talent to me as far as the Patriots receiving core is concerned, which is why I'm not entirely uninterested in him. Alec Iomanor, excuse me.
Is it Iomanor?
It's Iomanor. Alec Iomanor on the Tennessee Titans. Only 2 points, 5% owned in the ESPN leagues, but was against the Broncos, understandable, and is clearly the wide receiver 2 next to Calvin Ridley. Rookie, only going to get better, you would think.
I think we kind of knew that. And then same thing with Calvin Austin. He seemed like he was kind of leading the way in camp. A good day. Again, we don't think the Steelers are going to have that much passing volume.
Yeah,
on a
I'm good on
regular
Calvin
basis.
Austin. I think he's a waste of a waiver
You're still
pickup.
starting DK Metcalf. But, yeah, Austin's kind of a guy I would pick up if he is unclaimed, is kind of the way I see it. And then tight ends, Harold Fannin Jr., pick him up. Pick him up for sure.
You have to.
I'm not confident starting him yet. I'm more confident starting the other guy we have here, Jawan Johnson. Honestly, if out of this entire list, if I have to pick any of these players up and put them in my lineup right now, it's Jawan Johnson. Again, just because the tight end position comes at such a commodity. And Spencer Rattler threw the ball 46 times in a game that they lost by a touchdown. Kellen Moore, even with Alvin Kamara having a decent day, 11 carries, they're going to run. They're going to throw the fucking shit out of the ball, whether it's Spencer Rattler, whether it's Tyler Shuck. Like, I own a lot of Chris Olave, and I'm starting a lot of Chris Olave this week just because seeing them do this in this kind of game, and it was really Olave and Johnson, and then Rashid Shaheed. Behind that, a little Brandon Cooks, one Devon Vele target. Like, there's not much beyond those three. You talk about being the number 2 option in your offense. And Johnson was clearly at the best, like 2A.
Yeah.
There with Shaheed in week 1. And with such a like, I've got a 16-team league where my tight end was, I don't even know who my tight end was, bad. I think it was Chig Okonkwo this week. I am very much targeting Jawan Johnson to pick up and start.
I'll tell you this. I agree with everything you just said. Super in on Harold Fannin Jr. Harold Fannin Jr., despite being, again, we talk
Technically
about
a backup.
we talk about top 2 target, but like despite being somehow the number 2 tight end on his own team, the Browns ran out of 12 personnel constantly in that game.
He's out there all
Harold
game.
Fannin Jr. played 72% of the snaps, which as a backup tight end is egregiously high. Harold Fannin Jr. got 9 targets in this game. Harold Fannin Jr. last year at Bowling Green, if you're unfamiliar with his college days, Pat, 117 catches, 1,555 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He is a playmaker. They schemed things up for him. He was getting, again, manufactured touches. Like, this is a play. We are going to get Harold Fannin the ball. I think he's the highest upside pass catcher on the Browns. And has the highest ceiling. Like, this is a guy I would not be surprised if he finished as a tight end 1 by any stretch of the imagination.
And the thing is, I don't think he zaps David Njoku's value completely either. Like, I think Njoku's still kind of a fringe starter here, even with Harold Fannin. But yeah, with the tight end position being so uncertain, bye weeks, injuries, you're going to need a second tight end. Like me, I picked up Tucker Kraft, which was kind of like a rogue pick. Our friend Gary, who's a Packers fan, is like, "When are you ever going to need him?" I need him.
You need him now.
I need him right now. So,
now.
With the tight end position, especially if guys getting hurt, Harold Fannin and Jawan Johnson are both fun pickups.
Yeah. All right, folks. That will do it. We've hit our 90-minute mark for week 1 of brand coverage. What's up?
Here we are. Look at us.
I know. Look at us. Look at this in
This
person.
is the new, you guys get to see the whole gut now. You get to see the dogs.
The studio
I'm in
is ripping.
excruciating discomfort right now. I'm going to take a video of me getting out of this thing, and we're going to post it on our Instagram.
Oh dear. Yeah, Pat. He described this beanbag as potentially his eternal resting place.
Yeah,
when I told him.
this was actually about as comfortable as I could be. For those of you who do not regularly watch, I have severe back problems. So
from carrying this show on his back.
From carrying the burden of my thoughts and my massive body weight has killed my back.
Folks, thank you for tuning in to the first ever 10 a.m. Eastern Time edition of Brand Coverage. If this is the first show you guys have ever watched, we appreciate you. We will be here every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern, with fantasy football, takeaways, advice, all that good stuff. And again, for those of you, if you are listening on audio or watching this after the fact, right after we finish this little 90-minute recording section of the show, we answer viewer questions from the donations that they sent us throughout the show right after we go off air. So we're going to do that here in a second, but you have to tune in live if you want to get your questions answered in the future. So for the condensed, consolidated version of the show for this week, for Pat Gustafson, I'm Brandon Carney, and we will see you next time.
I got the dogs out. Bye-bye.
All right. Let's get to our donation questions. Guys, thank you for all the donations throughout the show.
Thank you, folks.
First, from Omega 199 said, Bran, I'm waiting on that D-Hop apology.
What did D-Hop do?
Made a catch. Okay, it was an impressive catch. Don't get me wrong. Ravens, Bills, he made a really, really nice touchdown catch, one-handed. It was awesome. I will be apologizing for nothing. This man is not involved in the offense in a meaningful way, and I knew he could still do that. I knew he could still do
he's
that.
like the new Odell or one of those guys that just trickles around the league.
Every time you try to write him off,
Cooks, Robert Woods, like he'll be on a roster forever. But
you write him off, and then their fanboys, when they make one catch, are like, see, he's still here. I'm like,
Hopkins,
no. 2 catches, 35 yards.
He was elite
Excuse
at
me.
his peak, but
Yes.
he is. Those days are long.
No,
gone.
he is dust. I will apologize for nothing. Lucian with $2 said, favorite rookie promoted to second string. Special to him, baby. I'm tooting right now.
Is LaQuaint Allen Jr. a rookie?
LaQuint Allen, yes, he is a rookie.
LaQuaint Allen Jr. is my favorite rookie that just got promoted to backup.
Shut the fuck up. He's
going to play more snaps than Bashal, too?
Nope, disagree. Harry with $5 said, won this week in all 3 of my fantasy leagues and won $650 on a parlay from last night's game. Feeling great. Love the pod and the vids and Pat's toes.
Hey, yo, honestly, if I get enough positive feedback, I will post feet pics. Your boy is, thanks to my back problems, I have worked on and off for the last 2 years. So your boy's a little strapped, and I have a gambling problem when I was in Las Vegas. Las Vegas, sucked me dry. So, your boy needs money if anyone's into some feet pics.
All right. Okay, let's move on.
Alex, I never doxed you or threatened to dox you this episode.
That's true. I appreciate that. Alex
the
with
threat will
$2.
be weekly.
Alex with $2 said, no, I actually didn't tell Pat where I lived. I handcuffed him and threw him in the back of a van and drove him here. Alex
I call
with
it the
$2
branching.
said, will Kelsey revert to touchdown-dependent tight end this year? Yeah, Travis Kelsey being... So look, he needed that touchdown catch to kind of save his fantasy day, right? I need to see how his line finished because I don't recall. He had a good fantasy day because he saved it with that. But yeah, only 2 catches, 47 yards and a touchdown with a 37-yard touchdown mixed in. I'm going to, again, give it another week because the Chiefs are now going into a week knowing they don't have Xavier Worthy versus expectedly expecting to having him very involved in the game plan and then having to adjust. Now, they may change things to be like, okay, we don't have that deep threat, that speed element in our offense anymore. We need to recalibrate. Probably going to operate in the short area of the field more, which is Kelsey's bread and butter. I want to see what he can do this week first.
And they're playing, obviously, they're home against Philadelphia. They're going to have to throw the ball. It's going to be a high-scoring game in theory, so that bodes well for him this week.
Sporadic Silver with $5 said Kraft or Strange for tight end. Also, fuck the Browns and Jerome Ford and Worthy. Man, he got beef.
Yeah, Jerome Ford, my guy. This is tough with Kraft and Strange.
It's an easy Kraft for me.
I
know you're a Strange guy.
I would say Kraft just because both offenses have a lot of mouths to feed. And I think in this case, I'm just picking the Packers offense. Strange, maybe more of the floor play. I think we'll see Strange as a sure thing for 5 catches. But I think Kraft's are going to be more valuable because he's just, 1, the better player, and 2, on the better team.
I
think both are decent starts.
I just think, again, I'm going to simplify it back to the target consolidation of the Jags when things are going as expected. It's going to be BTJ and Hunter as the top 2. In Green Bay, Kraft may very well be the one.
That was why I liked him so much.
And Jordan Love, let's not forget, again, in this game, threw the ball only 22 times. Jordan Love's going to throw the ball more than that going forward, and so there's going to be a lot more going around for Kraft. It's an easy Kraft for me.
Thursday night, that'll be a fun game Thursday night.
Commanders, yeah. I would go Kraft for sure.
I didn't see much of that Washington game either on Red Zone.
Well, we didn't talk about Debo at all. Debo was good, and I'm confused.
At work, we have a 9-screen TV.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it was awesome. But I did not pay much attention to the Commanders Giants. So
Debo was good. Unk still got it.
It'll be nice to get a good watch on that on Thursday night.
TiVo with $4.99. This is our boy. Said I want to bench Lamar Jackson for Justin Fields.
I still wouldn't do that.
This is a shout to our pal in our league who has that ability because he said he was going to do that this week, which is our buddy, our buddy Gordon.
Yeah,
he's Gordo. He said he was going to bench Lamar for Fields, and we are going to allow that to happen if he so chooses, but don't do that. Anybody else?
The only player you are benching for Lamar Jackson is Josh Allen.
Yeah, and if you have both, you shouldn't be playing fantasy
football.
Will with $4.99 said my running back room consists of Chase Brown, Pacheco, Jalen Warren, Javonte Williams, and Austin Eckler. Which 2 or 3 should get the start moving forward? Chase Brown's a lock. Beyond that, great question. I think you got to play matchups. I don't think anybody else is
I will
locked
say
in.
that we didn't talk much about the Cowboys, but Javonte Williams had a great game as
Touchdown
well.
boy.
And he is clearly the guy.
Yeah.
There, Jaden Blue, healthy scratch. Miles Sanders had one good run.
Ooh, they're facing. Ooh, well, the Giants' D-line's good. Yeah, Javonte's so. Again, this is one where I don't want to overreact to touchdowns. 15 carries, 54 yards. Like, yes, he's their lead back, clearly, but that is not always good. That, a lot of the time with the Cowboys, Pat, I feel like is going to look like what the Chiefs' backfield looked like, which is you're only getting 5 carries because you can't afford to keep running it, and it's not pretty, and you don't get the touchdowns.
I guess to the point, though, is if Javonte Williams did that to the Chiefs, what can Isaiah Pacheco, up to the Chiefs, excuse me, the Eagles, what could Isaiah Pacheco do this week? Like, I agree with you completely. Depending on who your wide receivers are, I may only go 2 out of this group if you've got a third viable wide receiver.
I think I'd probably only go 2, yeah.
And I think I would go with probably the first 2 guys.
I would continue to roll Pacheco. Again, we're still in the learning phase of the season. And so if you were to say, okay, wipe your brain clean of what happened week 1, who are you going to start in a given week? It's still going to be Brown and Pacheco. I think that's what you got to do.
Well, and we never mentioned a certain someone this week. Bill Krosky-Merritt.
Bill Merritt, baby. So Bill Merritt was funny because the stat line looks good. 10 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown.
42-yard run.
42-yard run. He didn't play a lot of snaps. He didn't play RB1 big load back snaps, which you need to see him do going forward. But it was still a good start. He's still not a confident put him in your lineup guy, but
well,
still
that's
a
the
good
thing,
start.
just kind of referring to Eckler, who did still have 9 touches at a passable game. If you started him, you probably weren't too thrilled. But if you weren't, you weren't expecting much anyway.
Right.
So I would definitively put Eckler at 5 and Warren. Yeah, I'd probably go Brown, Pacheco, Williams, Warren, Eckler. I had to rate those guys, and I would
agree.
Feel okay starting any of them except Eckler.
I would agree. The S-Box with $4.99 said, full PPR, 1 QB. I have the second waiver pick. Who should be my priority? Replacing Nix and Stroud with Fields or finding a new tight end when I have Kittle and Kincaid? Well,
I think it also depends on who your tight end is. I think Justin Fields, even at the positional value, will probably be more so than whatever tight end you can pick up. So I would say confidently, if Fields is available in your league, I think he should be the number 1 target if you need a quarterback.
I would say Fields, and then try to get with your wraparound waiver claim a tight end, because I think Fields is going to be the hotter commodity too. Like I think
Absolutely.
there's a higher chance in your league that people don't care as much about Juwan Johnson or Harold Fannin.
You may be able to sneak someone, or even after waivers clear, do what I do and wake up at 3:30 in the morning every night to get people on waivers, which I'm notorious, but it's an accident most of the time.
Yeah, it's an accident.
Pee like 6 times in the middle of the night.
Pat wakes up with the alarms like fucking Squidward with all the clocks.
I've never woken up to an alarm to that, but
there have been
times where I've stayed up as long as an hour to wait. Like I'll wake up at 3 and they don't clear till 4, and I will stay up the entire time.
I did it once. I remember. I don't remember who it was for. I just remember thinking this was a week where I could tell there was going to be a bunch of guys available after waivers cleared, and I was like, I want to be the first one to do it. So I've done that before.
Now that I use sleep aids as much, I don't tend to wake up until 6 o'clock is my wake up time.
Yes.
Just too late.
Alex with $5 said, how did you deal with negative comments early on as a content creator? Also, Brand, would you accept a Cincy-themed care package in advance of the Bengals-Pats game?
Take it.
No. How did you deal with negative comments early on as a content creator? I mean, fuck them, kind of. I don't know. You just kind of know that you want to get where you want to get as a content creator, and other people that are commenting shit are probably miserable going to their 9 to 5 every day and not trying to do anything else. So that's kind of how. Feel bad for them if you can, because they are more miserable than you could ever know.
That would always be my holdup thinking about that, is just negative comments. I guess technically I'm a public people know me for something other than
we got 700 live viewers, buddy. You are public.
So that's what I mean. So I guess my biggest thing is worrying about negative comments, because I just want everybody to like me. But in most of my negative comments to myself, I'm not a content creator, but they come from myself. So
same.
I always
Very
tell
much
people
same.
at work, you can't hurt me worse than I can hurt me.
That part, Alex, yes.
I have not been reported to the employee assistance program yet, and I am stunned.
Goat with $5 said, just traded, oh God, big trade, week 1. Just traded May, Gibbs, and Adams for Daniels, Bucky, and T. Henderson. I don't even care who the other wide receivers are right now. I need to process this. May, Gibbs, Adams for Daniels, okay, upgrade, Bucky and Gibbs, downgrade to Bucky.
But not a huge one.
Not a huge one. And then upgrade, I think, Adams to Henderson.
Or very
I think
similar.
you're good.
I like the second side better just because
Yeah.
you're upgrading so much at quarterback, still getting a good running back in Bucky Irving, who had a nice week, right? He had a touchdown, didn't he?
Bucky, I think so.
Again,
I think so, yeah.
That was a game that just didn't pop up on my
Falcons, Buccaneers. Yeah, it didn't really, other than Penix's
Yeah, he had 14
Superman.
for 37, and then he had 4 catches for 8 yards and a touchdown. Not the best game. We didn't talk about Emeka Egbuka either. He was awesome.
He was in the thumbnail for this stream, too. I just didn't talk about him, but
He
well.
was awesome. It's funny. I had to sit him in a 16-team league, and I still didn't have the room to start him.
God.
Because I went all running backs, receivers, and punted quarterback, tight end. And someone just took Bucky Irving in our guillotine draft.
Oh, look at that.
But Egbuka, start him. I'm starting him everywhere I have him, which I do have him.
Let's see, my other receivers, Pearsall, Higgins, Egbuka, and BTJ, so I wanted 2 running backs. Yeah, I think
that's a great team.
I think you did
That's
fine.
a great team. I dig that.
Alex with $2 said, fun stat, 4 of 6 players with 2 rushing touchdowns were quarterbacks. That is a fun fact. One of the other ones was Derrick Henry. Knight the Mite with $5 said, should I get Fannin Jr. or Pitts to replace Kittle? Should I start Braylon Allen over T. Henderson or try to get a waiver running back to start? I would keep starting Henderson. They play the Dolphins this week.
Yeah.
It should
in
be
control of the game.
there should be some abuse going on. If the Patriots don't abuse the Dolphins, you will find me just at the bottom of a lake somewhere.
It's just gonna be me on this beanbag.
So yeah, I would
haven't
go.
left.
I would go with Henderson, and then Fannin or Pitts to replace Kittle. I mean, who do the Falcons face?
I think it might be Kyle Pitts.
I don't want to recommend
just
Kyle Pitts.
because,
You can't make me.
especially if London is out or banged up, and other guys are banged up, compared to Fannin, where again they throw a fuck ton. But we talked about Njoku, and Judy, and Tillman, and Dylan Sampson.
They face the Vikings. What is? I mean, none of the Bears.
I will
tight ends
say
did anything
Kyle
last
Pitts.
night.
I'll say it.
I'll say Fannin because I have to.
Yeah,
commit
you got to keep the bid up. Yeah.
Bulby with $5 said,
Stop.
Go Pack, go. So glad I started Green Bay over the Chiefs. That said, I'm just screwed with Kenneth Walker, right? My next best option being Braylon Allen or Dylan Sampson. I don't think you're screwed. I think you keep starting. Starting Walker. I would say go back earlier in the show. We talk about Walker in the Panic or Patience segment, like an hour in or so.
Who knows?
I think Walker's going to be okay. It's going to be more of a split with Charbonnet than Walker truthers wanted it to be, but I still think he's going to be able to put up points there. More so than Braylon Allen and Dylan Sampson, I think. Alex with another 2 said, out on Javonte, 2 1-yard touchdowns with no Jalen Carter. Yeah, I'm not falling for Javonte.
Yeah, we didn't mention Jalen Carter. What a fucking idiot. But that's got to be the worst thing that guy's ever done, right?
Gotta be. I mean, what's the joke I put in the video? I've never seen Jalen Carter's actions lead to an unfortunate drive before that hurt his teammates.
Shit, that's a good one.
Yeah, something like that. It was in a video. That's why it was way more well put together there.
I remember that. Yeah.
Eli with $4.99 said 12-team full PPR. J Love, Chase Hill, Kyron Aaron. Any trades I can make moving forward? I'm not really going to recommend any trades after week 1, man. There's just not enough.
Unless you have an injury and a positional need, I don't think trading after week 1 is the best idea.
Yeah, I think your running backs probably will need some work. Like Kyron's going to be fine. Jones, look, Mason was really involved, which I was happy about as a Mason owner, but Jones saved his day with a receiving touchdown. I think you're going to be fine at receiver with Chase and Egbuka. JMO should be okay going forward, but yeah, I would say shoring up the running backs would be the better part there. And then if we got a few more minutes here, if anybody in the general chat wants to ask some questions, we will answer a few non-donation related questions, so fire them in there. We'll answer 2 or 3 of the best ones before we hop off and before I stop letting this laptop absolutely cook the shit out of my legs. Let's see here. Harry said, I have Eckler and Bill. Bill outscored Eckler. Is it worth dropping Eckler for depth elsewhere or hold on to both? I'd hold on to both for a while.
I'd hold on to both.
Yeah.
I think Eckler, like you said, may have more of the traditional lead back, but I think eventually Bill's going to take it.
Agree. Would you trade Waddle for Judy? Full PPR,
Yes.
I do have Achane.
I would. I think they're very similar players. I think that the Browns' passing game is inevitable in the sense that they're going to be losing a lot and have to throw a lot. We just saw the Dolphins be down by a ton and not be able to throw effectively. I prefer Judy to Waddle, at least for the time being. Maybe not rest of season, but for the time being.
I think I prefer Waddle still. I would hold on to Waddle personally. Judy is such an up and down player. I mean, not that Waddle isn't, but I just think Waddle has a more likely path to being reliable week to week than Judy does, especially if this Tyreek situation goes anywhere, because that could be a real swing.
I feel like his situations never go anywhere, though.
Yeah,
Except in college when he had to transfer to like Northwestern Oklahoma.
He needs to go to counseling. I don't know what this username is, but it says, how long do I hold on to Caleb Johnson? You can drop Caleb Johnson.
I would honestly, unless you've got a really deep bench, drop him.
Yeah, it depends on the size of your league. I mean, if your best free agent is fucking Dare Ogunbowale, yeah, hold on to Caleb Johnson. But if you're in a presumably normal size league, you can drop him for a guy who's going to get more than one carry.
I think if he does become something, it's going to be too late in the season to be worth holding a roster spot all year.
Yeah. Amy says, are you finally willing to admit Justin Fields isn't dog shit? He looked better than Aaron Rodgers by a country mile.
No.
No.
No, but, you know.
That's like asking me if I'm willing to admit Daniel Jones isn't dog shit. No.
You know, we've seen him have his moments. I'd like to see him do it consistently first, but certainly promising.
Not a question, but back when CMC announced the calf issue, I got him 1-for-1 for Pacheco in a league I have money on. God damn.
Ooh.
God damn. That's fire.
Like I said, I had him ranked as my number 2 player for the overall for this week.
Joe King said, hey guys, big fan, been on Instagram following y'all, and this is my first stream. Do you think I should keep with the Cardinals DST for this week? Depends who's available. I think they're viable because the Panthers looked really disjointed week 1. I have the Cardinals D. I am going to be looking for alternatives, but if I don't get one, I'm okay with that. You could keep them, just it depends who's out there, really.
I will say something to mention here is I did this in a lot of leagues. The Bills defense, their schedule now starts to be very, very good, or at least appealing.
Yeah.
You know, I drafted 2 defenses in a lot of leagues, including ours. What's the schedule? If you're looking for another defense, they may be available because the Jets, Dolphins, Saints, Patriots, Falcons, Panthers, and then Chiefs, and then Dolphins. Like, they could be a team that you're at least rostering for most of the year here.
I'm confused about this one. I don't know if it's a troll or what. Cam Scatteraboo looked like the star on the Giants field. Do you think he will make fantasy relevance in the next few weeks?
Well, you know, hard-working guy, first in, last out.
Cam Scatteraboo had 2 carries for -3 yards. I'm confused. He had 2 catches for 12 yards. No, look, he's a guy that could gain relevance as the year goes on. I don't think anything about this game or this time of year tells me it's going to happen anytime soon. All right,
fucking Wan'Dale Robinson, man.
Yeah, one more, and then we will jump off here.
I'm a thirsty boy.
Let's see.
I should have brought spare water bottles that I could chuck across the room like I used to do. And I was thinking we got to hang up some guitars back here too.
We could hang up some guitars.
Got too many of them anyway.
More question. All right, this one looks long and fun.
Hey yo.
Ryan says, sit start, 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 flex. Jamar, Evans, Pearsall, Chase Brown, Bucky, Henderson, Egbuka, Jacob. Man, your team's good. I like that.
I gotta wait till this comes up on the YouTube because I already forgot every name you just said. Here we go.
Yeah. Okay. We are starting Jamar Chase. Obviously,
no matter what. I think you're starting Ricky Pearsall.
Yep.
I think you're starting Emeka Egbuka.
Yep.
And then
Chase Brown
and Bucky. And then I think Mike Evans over Henderson.
Mike Evans over Henderson and Jacoby Myers.
Oh, I didn't even see Jacoby Myers.
Jacoby's at the bottom, but still.
I stand by it, yes. But that's a really good, you got a really good team. The only thing, then it just comes down to managing it.
Right.
That's the hardest part about fantasy football, honestly. Sometimes it's harder to have a really good team than it is to have a bad one.
Yeah. All right, folks, that'll do it for the Q&A section. Thank you guys for tuning in. 736 concurrent across all platforms right now.
Guys.
We appreciate you guys. Back here again, 10 a.m. Eastern next Tuesday, every week, locked and loaded. We're going to be here, so are Pat's feet.
I'm going to be here all week, actually.
Pat may actually die here. We will be accepting applications for a new co-host. But for the currently alive Pat Gustafson, I'm Brandon Carney, and we'll see you guys